To save you some time, I love this game. I adore Blood Rage and have for a very long time. This is just me catching up on some of the older reviews I should do. This is Blood Rage, designed by Eric Lang from Command Games, and it's a game of area control drafting across 3 rounds, in which you're going to see who has achieved the most glory at the end of the 3rd round. The basic gameplay is, like I said already, an area control game. It's a game in which every single round across 3 ages you're going to be drafting cards from these decks of cards. You're going to be picking out these cards, assigning the cards to everyone, giving them their hand, and then going through the process of drafting cards one at a time as you pick the various quests you're going to go for. You're going to pick the various battle cards you're going to add, the various abilities you're going to upgrade as you go through the game. The general idea is you're trying to find the right combination of cards that you draft as you go through the drafting phase of every single round before you move on to the actual action phase, where you start resolving the actions utilizing your rage that will increase as you go through the game in order to take all the actions that you want. That first part, the most compelling part, is that initial draft. This is not going to be a full rules overview, general idea of the gameplay, but you're going through that initial draft trying to pick the combinations of cards you think will work best for you as you try to go through your objective. You're going to look over here and you're going to say, well, I really would love to have Brothers in Arms. That's going to help my warriors be worth more strength. Then again, having a +5 to my combat in round 1, that could be huge and really help me win that battle I need. Or do I want to start off early on the Loki strategy, gaining points when my ships are destroyed, which means I don't really mind losing the combat and it can be very helpful there. Or do you start going for quests, because quests can be incredibly impactful as you choose to go for certain quests that will help you go through the game as you try to figure out which objectives you're going to get and which stats you're going to raise and what glory you're going to get throughout that process. You're going to be going through this trying to pick the combination of cards that you think works for your strategy. Which monsters are you going to recruit, which units or which upgrades, which clan abilities, all that stuff, and every single one of these is important. The whole reason why I love Blood Rage is because of the fact that every single card that the game offers you is incredibly important in what it allows you to do. When you're done drafting, you're going to go ahead and enter the actual ability phase, where you're going to start using and spending your rage in order to move around the board and to invade the various regions and to start the process of actually trying to score points to complete your objectives and to engage in battle, since every single battle is going to result with the winner gaining glory for those battles that they engage with. You're going to be dealing with a few different stats in the game. You're going to have your rage, which is how much rage you start with, which you're going to start with 6, but as you level this up, you'll start with more rage across the next rounds of the game. You're going to have your axes, which is the glory you get for winning battles. The more axes you have, the more points you will get for winning battles, starting off at a lowly 3 points and moving all the way up to 8 points at the end of the track. And then your horns, the number of figures you can have on the board. It's going to be important because you can't add more figures to this board unless you have enough horns to accommodate those figures. And so you want to upgrade your horns as you go through the game in order to ensure that you can actually have 5, 6, 7 figures on the board. You're going to be doing that. You're going to be upgrading these stats through 2 different main methods. You're going to win battles when you initiate combat in one of these regions. You're going to upgrade your stats, and in Yggdrasil, you're going to upgrade all 3 of your stats. And then additionally, whenever you accomplish a quest, you get to choose a stat to raise, which is going to give you both those increases in stats, as well as 10 and 20 additional glory at the end of the game if you move those markers to those regions over there. The actual actions you can take every single round, you're going to involve spending rage. For the most part, some actions are actually free, although you can never take an action if your rage is down to 0, which is an important way that you're going to try to mess over your teammates and that they're going to mess over you. I say teammates when I really just mean the people at the table. But you're going to go through the process of spending your rage on one of a few different 5 core actions over here: invading, marching, upgrading, questing, and pillaging. When you do a quest, you're going to play a quest down for free. Again, that's one of those actions that costs 0 rage, but you have to have at least 1 rage to be able to do that. Once you're down to 0 range, you can't do that at all. So playing a quest is going to be one of the actions you can take. Playing an upgrade card is an action you can take, where you play an upgrade card either to the specific unit it's upgrading or to the general ability structure you're going to go have over there, and that's going to equal the cost of the card itself. So you can see over here, at any given point, any single upgrade card is going to have their own individual cost. You can see over here, if we go through this, you can see example, the Lord of Spears over here is going to cost you 3 to upgrade. The Eternal Dragons will cost you 2, so you can have different upgrade costs over there as far as those. You're also going to have the actions to march. Whenever you march, you're going to choose all the units in one region, move them anywhere on the board, adjacent or non-adjacent, for a cost of 1 rage. You have to have that rage, but you can go ahead and pop into different regions, although you do need to be mindful of the fact that different spots will have different degrees of available spots to put people in. Yggdrasil can host anyone. There's going to be spots that are actually taken where they've already been Ragnaroked over there and they cannot be entered. And then past that, you're going to have the specific little dots where you're trying to move your people across from one region to another. From there, you have the invade action, where when you invade equal to the cost of the unit. The strength of the unit is going to be what the invade action is. So, for example, if you're invading with a leader, leaders invade for free as part of their ability, but a strength 1 unit will invade for 1 rage. A strength 2 unit will invade for 2 rage. So the higher strength your units, the more rage it'll cost to get them into combat, although whenever you play upgrades for different units, including monsters, you get in a free invade action, so there's a bit of a double dipping over there when you first upgrade units. And then from there, you're going to have the actual pillage action, which is free. Pillaging is free, but you have to go ahead and say, I'm announcing a pillage, at which point a combat begins. Players will have the opportunity to start entering and joining the combat if they are adjacent. If you announce a pillage over here, players will one at a time have the opportunity to invade the combat until the spaces are all full, and then from there you're going to go ahead and engage the actual strength of the units. You're going to add any modifiers you have for any clan abilities. You're going to add all players involved in the combat are going to play a single card down, and which they can use for that combat. The winner of the combat will lose their card, everyone else will lose their units over to Yggdrasil, and then the winner of the and all the losers will get back their cards so they can play them again. So playing that 5 strength card, you don't have to worry about losing it. If you do lose it, you get it back, so there's never that particular fear in combat. And that's basically Yggdrasil. You're going to rinse and repeat that process across 3 rounds. Every single round, you're going to have another area on the board destroyed, which means more focus and more tension on those core areas. You're going to upgrade your stats. You're going to try to get your stats to the top so you get 10 or 20 glory. You're going to be accomplishing quests so you can get a whole bunch of points from over there. You're going to be trying to accomplish and engage in battles as frequently as possible so you can get 8 points again and again and again as frequently as possible. Rinse and repeat until you go through those 3 ages and see who has achieved the most glory in Blood Rage. I love this game. I really do. This game has been my number 1 game of all time at times. I think last year it shrunk to the lowly place of my number 3 game of all time. I have adored Blood Rage for a very long time, and it's one of the most frequent area control games I play, and it's because it combines so many of the things I like. When I try to tell you what it is I like about Blood Rage, it's going to start with just the core concepts, mechanics, and general things I like in games. From drafting. I love the mechanic of drafting. I love the tension of having a hand of cards in which I want every single card, but I can't have every single card, I can have one of them. And not only can I not have everything I want, I have to pass you the other things that I think I can do so much damage with. Do I want that clan upgrade that I think will really set me up for the next few rounds, but I'm passing you that 5 strength card, which means you might be using that against me in the next round of combat. Do I hope it shows its way back around to me as I continue to draft? Drafting in general is a concept in which you are both trying to choose what you want and trying to choose what you give your opponent, and if the more powerful, the more intricate, the more cool every single card is, the better I like a drafting game, and Blood Rage gives you broken card after broken card after broken card, so that every single time I draft in Blood Rage, I have that tension of what I want, what I hope makes its way back to me, and what I'm about to hand to you so that you can win the game. It has powers and abilities left, right, and center from the various characters you actually have, from the fact that you are drafting your powers and abilities. You are creating your slowly developed asymmetry in the course of the game as you go through it. It's so ridiculously satisfying to have cards, to have powers, to be able to steal a person's last rage so that they're crippled in that first round of combat, to have them all play their cards and you cancel the entire thing, to be able to pursue the Loki strategy where when you die, it doesn't really matter if you die because you actually gain more points for dying. You gain points for your units in Valhalla. You're playing down quests that will reward you for your death. There's so many different options and viable ways that you can try to build out your own asymmetry in this game, that you can try to give units different things. The way you'll have different monsters that engage in the game in different ways, dropping the monsters down on the board for the way they have their own unique abilities, and the way you're going to execute on the combination of your clan abilities, your unit abilities, your monsters that you have, in order to try to figure out how you can actually win this game in this area control puzzle. And it's area control done right, although done right means done right for me. I don't like plain simple area control. I like area control when you use it as a foundational aspect in which you bundle other things around it, and those other things are the powers and abilities, the reasons, the intricacies, the depth of strategy, not purely the idea that there's a bunch of dudes on a map. I don't care about that on its own. I care about everything wound into it, and Blood Rage winds everything into it, and it gives you multiple paths to victory the entire time it does so. There's so many different ways you can try to pursue a strategy, ways of the combination of taking a Loki strategy and just heavily dying, the combination of trying to upgrade your axes so you can start getting 8 points per battle and just battling and battling and battling, getting points after points, feeding directly into the Loki player as they want to die and you want to win, but you're outpacing them at 8 points per combat. The combination of different abilities you'll go for, grabbing those extra quests in the last round, combining it with Odin's Throne so you can score double for each quest, getting 16 points per quest, and just cascading your points into just a ton of point bonuses, moving your glory to the max over there as you level up your your stats and get 20, 20, 20, getting 60 points over there, plus 100 points from your various quests. There's so many different pathways you can pursue as far as what combination of advantages you take in this game. It gives you a ton of different ways, a ton of different abilities, a ton of different monsters and creatures and powers and abilities, and it gives you point escalation across the rounds, which means you stay involved in the game. What I mean by that is the idea that in Blood Rage, if you're playing Blood Rage, the amount of points available in round 1 in the first age are just significantly less than the amount of points you can get in the second age and the third age. And the relevance of that is it allows you to start building things up, but it gives you that opportunity for failure without it punishing you the entire game. You can lose horrifically in the first round of the game, in the first age, and you can have a terrible first round, but it doesn't really matter because people are at 12 points apiece in a game that's going to go to 150 points, and so there's plenty of room for a few optimal plays to come back in this game. That point escalation, in the sense that they have the math play out, means you're still involved the entire time. Even as every move matters, it matters more the further you are in the game, keeping you invested the entire time, all while giving you tons of opportunities to feel clever based on what you draft, how you draft, where you let other players fight with each other, where you try to take advantage of the fact that a pillage just failed and now you can walk in and take an easy win over there. There's so much going on in this game, and it all runs together beautifully. As far as what I don't like, I tried thinking about this and I really only have one thing. I adore this game. It's such a good game in terms of what it does, and past the complaint that, hey, once you play this game 40 times, it does get a little samey. I mean, I'm okay with that as a complaint. I would say the biggest thing at a certain point for me is that to me, when you're playing Blood Rage, drafting monsters in the third round feels less satisfying. I love the monsters in Blood Rage. I love just stomping down a giant creature and having their ability take place multiple times. But in a game that only lasts 3 ages, having a character come out in the 4th round, where they go in the 3rd round, there's only 3 rounds, having drafting a monster in the 3rd age and having them enter the board a single time just doesn't have the same gravitas or impact as other creatures do. And so they have these incredibly cool creatures and they're still worth drafting. It's less satisfying having a cool and expensive creature pulled and then understanding that you're only going to get one use out of that creature. That's the only real complaint I have over here. Everything else for me is working beautifully. But as far as potential things others might not like, I do have a few things there, and first of all is the Loki strategy. Blood Rage is controversially known for the Loki strategy, the strategy in which a player will try to draft all the cards that reward them for dying, the quests that reward them for dying, the cards that reward them for dying, the clan abilities, every single thing, so they can walk into combat continuously hitting you, continuously stealing your rage, stealing your points, all while happy to lose the entire time because they are getting rewarded for every single death. They are getting every single death more and more glory, and so you can't fight someone who doesn't want to win. And so the Loki strategy is known as the singular most powerful strategy in a game full of completely broken strategies where everything is otherwise equally broken. The Loki strategy is the one that is known for being a bit more broken than the rest. It doesn't bother me overly because I do find that going for a partial Loki, partial non-Loki strategy is actually a very solid way where a player doesn't necessarily know when you want to win versus when you're comfortable just stealing their rage. I find drafting a Loki card here and there can actually be incredibly impactful in helping your own strategy, and making sure to hate draft the Loki player is an important part of the strategy. So the balance around making sure that the Loki strategy does not persevere just means you have to jump in and ensure that a single player is not getting all the Loki cards. You just have to make sure that it happens, and it's not a big cost because I find it's a cost that is an opportunity more so than a cost. Additionally, this game is conflict heavy, even though it's not punishing. I addressed the fact that in the first 2 ages of the game, you can lose more early game and not have it be quite as punishing, but this is still a conflict heavy game. This is still a game where you're jumping around from region to region, having clashes, having people walk around, moving them to Valhalla as you try to figure out how you're going to pursue this game, and it is ultimately an area control game with people attacking each other, with characters dying, and with the fact that those units you just spent time, energy, and effort getting onto the board are now gone, and you lost even when you weren't playing the Loki strategy and you're not trying to lose in the game. This is conflict heavy. You have to be okay with a conflict game, otherwise it's just not the right game for you. And then lastly, kind of similar to the Loki strategy, is lots of cards feel broken. If you hop onto the forums of Blood Rage, this is a game where everyone has a question about that one card that appears to be broken, that one strategy that feels like someone else is going to win and dominate with that strategy, and the problem is because that question comes up about so many different strategies, that's usually why it doesn't bother me. If everything is broken, nothing is really broken. As far as final thoughts on Blood Rage, like I said in the beginning, I love this game. I have loved this game for quite some time now. It's been in my collection for a very long time. I spent the first year of this existence just avoiding it because I didn't need a game full of giant miniatures. It wasn't my genre. It wasn't something I pursued at the time. And so I kind of just avoided the game and eventually picked it up because I read a blog post somewhere that seemed to talk about how good a game it was. And so I picked it up and I played it, and I have loved it ever since. From that very first play, through today, through expansions, through upgrades, through whatever, through the fact that there is a second edition of Blood Rage coming out in some way, shape, and form. I don't know how, but there's been blog posts and Eric Lang and come on and who knows what. There's going to be something coming in some way at some point. But but I've loved this game for the entire time through, and I've loved every single time that I've played it, and every time I play it, I feel like I want to play it again. This is a 5 out of 5 for me. It's one of the best games in my collection. It's a game that almost everyone in our group is happy to table this one. The expansions are nice, but not necessarily necessary. We have the gods of Asgard, which are fun. I like the gods. These nice golden ones are an additional touch, but the gods are a nice little touch. The mystics are a nice little touch. The box of Kickstarter extras with more monsters and more cards and more things. And all these things are nice little touches, but honestly, the core game of Blood Rage is what I fell in love with, and the core game of Blood Rage, I feel, gives you the experience you need. You don't need to hunt on everything else. It's nice. I'm not saying don't get it. I'm saying it does add to my experience, but the core game of Blood Rage is plenty in terms of what it does, how balanced it is. It just works well. It works incredibly well. I do find it works best as a 4-player experience. 3 and 5 are good. 4 is where it shines for me, and 2, I just haven't played it, and so I adore this game. If you're looking for an area control game that has drafting, it has powers and abilities, it has multiple paths to victory, and it has just beautiful miniatures and production quality and everything, Blood Rage absolutely has it. A 5 out of 5 for me, and a game that I will have in my collection, I imagine, forever, or at least until 2nd edition comes along. A really, really incredible game. If you're looking for other game recommendations, the other games that I would give slight comparisons to Blood Rage, first of all, Kemet is the game in my collection that feels most similar to Blood Rage. For me, it is a step back. I love Kemet, but Blood Rage to me replaced Kemet as far as powers and abilities and area control and combat driven, all those things. Blood Rage and Kemet are both absolutely fantastic. Kemet's still in my top 20 games of all time, but Blood Rage is my preference from those two, but both are solid games. And if you're looking for the game that finally surpassed Blood Rage as a game that I just find the cleverness manages to outpace the sheer powers and abilities of Blood Rage, Inish is a fantastic game in the same trilogy as Kemet, but a game that gives you the ability to feel clever as you engage in area control in a way that gives you the drafting that Blood Rage has, different games, but gives me the drafting that I love, gives me the ability to feel clever that I love, while dialing it a little bit back on the powers and abilities and dialing it way up on just the degree of clever play being rewarded in Inish. In any case, and until next time, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co. I hope you enjoyed this video, I hope you found it helpful, and as always, I hope you have a good one.